rock and roll weirdos, rock and roll weirdos, rock and roll weirdos.
It's good. It's good.
You like that?
It's peaking a bit, but I liked
Oh
it.
no, I was too loud again.
No, it was good.
As usual.
So hopefully you all enjoyed the amazing intro song that doesn't exist yet, but it will.
We're getting there.
This is episode 1 of Rock and Roll Weirdos with Abby Weitz, former front woman of New York City rock and roll band Wise Girl.
Hello.
And
Former. Let's stress former.
Yeah.
I have a new life now.
You're a different person now. You've grown up. You've branched out and into the makeup world, artistry, brides, like superstar weddings,
And superstars.
and superstars. Working with superstars.
Yeah. Yeah. It's real. It's real. I also never ever mentioned my past music career when I work with musicians. Ever.
Well, that's what this forum is for.
I guess.
It's to enlighten them, and I'm sure your clients won't be listening to this.
Yeah, when David Byrne hears this, he's going to be like,
Yeah.
oh, that girl did my makeup.
Right? David Byrne.
He's going to be like, whoa.
I remember standing next to him at the SNL after party. He was really nice. He was wearing overalls. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It's like still like an artist, you know?
I did a shoot with him like a month ago, and he rode his bike there, which I thought was so cool. Apparently that's his thing. He kind of rides his bike around the city, but
It's amazing.
super down to earth, really, really just kind human, which is so nice because they're not all like that.
And so talented.
So talented, brilliant, you know. I feel like it's funny. I feel like when you like kind of meet your like music heroes and everything, like you hear stuff and it's almost scary because you're like, man, if they're like a total dick, this will change everything. Like, I feel like I'm taking over the conversation already, but one time I had like
Do it.
the opportunity to meet Elvis Costello at like a signing. And I have chills talking about it because I was so excited. I really wanted to go. And then like I had read different things, and I'm sure he's the nicest human in real life. And it's just people who caught him on like a bad day, or maybe he's in the middle of a meal and someone's like, you're Elvis Costello. Like, you know.
That must be the worst thing. Imagine biting into like a burger or something. And then
Shit all over your
someone
face.
puts a phone in your face.
Yeah.
Oh, could you take a photo of my for my cousin? You know, like
Yeah. So I was going to go to the signing, and I'm like, oh my god, meet my like one of my biggest musical heroes. And then I was like, what if he just kind of like isn't, I don't know, what if I get weird vibes? Is that gonna like change my opinion of the music? So I didn't do it. Is that weird?
Really? You didn't?
I didn't do it. I
You
didn't want it to ruin for
You
me.
didn't want to shatter
Didn't want
what you had built in
Couldn't
your,
do it. Yeah.
in your head.
Maybe if I was like, you know, yeah, I don't know. What do you even say to like, hey, you're like my fucking hero, and like literally I feel like listening to your music I've learned so much just listening. And he's just like, yeah, you know, that's what everyone said. Well, maybe not everyone.
I'm sure, yeah. I feel like there's probably like a limit to how many times you can be told how great you are.
That's
and
it.
then you probably just go, like it might become for him a little bit like awkward, like to be like, oh wow, you know, that's so cool, you know. Because like, where do you go from that in the
I think
conversation?
people just need to start verbally assaulting him.
Verbally assaulting
Yeah,
him?
then at least maybe you'll get a different reaction than the nod and smile. Thank you, with his British accent. Thank you. You know, oh God, that was bad. That was a bad one. But yeah, maybe that's the new thing. Verbally assaulting your musical heroes just to get a reaction. That's
When you say verbally assaulting, what?
fuck you, you suck.
Oh,
Instead of like praising them, you know.
you're doing the reverse psychology on
That's
them, right?
it.
They're not used to that. They're like, hey, I thought you were going to say you love me.
I hit him with the therapist's daughter.
That's it.
My mom's a therapist.
You turn the tables.
I did.
No, that's an interesting take.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, going back to like your music and like your music career, obviously now we know you're a I mean, you could describe it better than I can. And, makeup,
I'm a makeup artist. I
artist,
run a business.
brides,
Yeah, event hair and makeup business.
lavish weddings.
Very high-end clientele. Not very high-end. I mean, that sounds
yeah.
so pretentious, but somewhat high. Yeah, we work with a lot of high-end brides. We also work with normal brides who, are not big wedding people, which I feel like I probably relate to those ones a lot more, which is why I feel like I really like some of those clients that I would be friends with them. We have one bride coming up, not going to name any names, but I'm like, she's so cool. She's a therapist. I'm just like, man, I would be friends with you if there weren't, like boundaries when it came to business. Maybe once the wedding's over, I'm going to text her and be like, hey, let's get a drink.
Right.
But,
at least the boundaries aren't as strict as like you
corporate.
or like your therapist. Hey, we should get a drink.
I know.
Because when you spend so much time around people and you get to know them and everything, they kind of almost become a friend in a way, and you think, oh, it is funny in those situations where it's just socially, professionally, kind of unacceptable, but.
No, I just the funny thing is talking about like bringing up boundaries and work. Literally had this conversation on Friday, talking about how one of my former good friends went to had a little like midlife crisis, whatever you want to call it, and checked herself into a psych ward. I took her, and then she wanted to leave. And when you check yourself in and they ask you if you were thinking of harming yourself and you say yes, they have to mandatory, like it's the law.
Yeah.
They have to keep you for 72 hours. She's one of those people who thinks the rules don't apply to her. Her mom flew in there berating everyone who works there. This place is horrible. How do we get her out? She doesn't need to be here.
It's like she was changing hotels or something.
Yeah. And the best was, my friend texted me and she's like, can you please bring me food? The food here is terrible. And I'm like, sure. Brought her some, went to the best Italian place here on the Upper West Side, got her some baked ziti, brought it. And I went with her mom, and her mom is sitting there, is, kind of running around the room trying to find someone she could talk into letting her daughter out. And, they're like, oh, the social worker will be here. And then the social worker walks out. And the mom just right away is talking to her. And we lock eyes. And I'm like, oh, my God. It's one of my upcoming brides.
Oh, my God.
So I look at her. She looks at me. And I'm like, hi. And then, of course, my friend's mom is like, you know?
Yeah.
You know her friend? Oh, my. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, she's one of my brides coming up. It was so insane. It's like, what are the odds? I feel like this shit only happens in New York. And I remember sitting there and just being so mind blown that this was happening. Because I also remember when I initially met the bride and we were doing, when brides come in for a hair and makeup trial, we generally do that so they know what to expect day of. And I remember talking to her at her trial, and she was saying that she was a social worker in a psych ward. And I was so fascinated. I'm like, so cool. Tell me everything.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, she didn't really disclose much, but she was just like, yeah, it's definitely interesting. So,
and
of
then
course,
you saw her live in
saw
real
her
life,
scene
IRL.
while my friend's mom is just in her face. She doesn't need to be here, blah, blah,
God.
blah. And I am we're sitting at a table. I'm looking down. I'm thinking, oh my God, her wedding's 3 weeks away. Do I bring this up? Do I not? Like, is this gonna be an ongoing joke with this bride? Wedding day comes. It was like it never happened.
Like Fight Club or something.
Yeah.
Like, you just like...
We were never there.
It was you like
the Joaquin Phoenix movie. You were never really there.
Yeah,
that's a favorite of ours.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my God.
So yeah, these are some of the interesting
stories.
Yeah, just doing what I do now, and I feel like I definitely sometimes getting into modes of listening to music, and then I miss it a little, but I don't miss the like struggle.
I know.
It's
well, I would like to just so that's I feel like this is where you are now, and I feel like I would love to hear, because this is like professional Abby and everything, but I feel like
You
rock and roll
consider this professional, Abby?
with no, I'm saying with the makeup and the business and the bride.
Oh,
and
I thought
everything.
you meant like me talking now. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I cursed like 16 times already.
Yeah, you probably did. This is going to
You,
be
you don't
adults
even
only.
notice it anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
21 and over.
But I guess what I wanted to do is just kind of tie that to what when you were. I mean, I feel like look, you're always be doing music in some capacity, whether it's writing or playing, and just whenever you get that spark, you pick up the guitar, the acoustic or something. But there was a time when, as now with the makeup, how into it you are, and you just. I've learned the complexities of it, from you of, it's really complicated, and I feel like you just really hone in on all the kind of I was going to say subfolders, but like all the, aspects, all the kind of minutiae aspects of it. But I feel like that creativity used to be, primarily focused towards music. And I guess I was just curious about how you kind of got into music and how, what it was like, like New York City when you moved here and like, I feel like I moved to New York in 2010 and I feel like one of the things I heard from a lot of people as soon as I moved was like, oh, it used to be so much cooler, or the East Village where I moved into was, oh, it used to be so much better. And, almost like people would say, oh, now, it's not so great. I loved it because I didn't have any kind of preconceived notion of what it used to be like. And I'm like, man, if it was like, I think it's cool now. I was like, if it was cool back then, like I would have loved to have experienced it. Obviously, without a time machine, I can't, but I do. We have you as the human time machine. Like, what was it like back then? Like when you were just like, you playing guitar and just, I guess maybe, I don't know if you want to talk about just starting guitar in general or just go into just like what it was like playing in those early days in
Well,
New
I could
York.
do like a little summary of how I got into it and then kind of elaborate onto how it grew. And I mean, when I was 11, I was obsessed with Hanson. And I was obsessed with Zach Hanson specifically. I was always obsessed with music. The Beatles.
He's the drummer, right?
The drummer, yep. So I was obsessed with melodies, the Beatles. Like certain Beatles songs when I was a kid would make me cry, which is so weird because the melodies were so like amazing and it's such a strange, weird thing. I mean, it's funny because I don't think I really ever talked about it until later when I was actually like performing with other musicians who got it, because I don't think my friends at the time or like people would have really understood. Some of them actually, but definitely always had a really intense relationship with like melodies, and I feel like a melody can change your mood. It's like they're so effective for many people who I also have like ridiculous ears, harmonies, all that stuff. It's like it brings me joy. It's so weird. So since I was a kid, I was always obsessed with the Beatles, like really like melodic music. Never was like huge into hip hop, I think because of the lack of like melody and all of that. There's some though. I did like melody mixed with hip hop, Fugees, stuff like that. But I started on drums, and then when I was about 13, I remember being obsessed with this song, a Bush song.
Not Glycerine?
No, it was
Everything's in?
Swallowed.
Oh, yeah.
So and my mom had an acoustic guitar. She played guitar and piano, like just for fun. And I took piano lessons as a kid and had taken drum lessons. And I had the melody of the verse of the Bush song stuck in my head. And I was like, Mom, can you show me these notes on guitar? And so we were listening to the song, and then she was showing me. And once she showed me those, I was like, okay, and started just like thinking of things I could just picking random just notes. And then I got really obsessed with that.
Wow.
And I was taking drum lessons at the time, and I wanted to switch over to guitar then, because also as a kid, I sang competitively. So, oh yeah, I left that part out.
That's cool.
So, I loved the fact that you could like sing and play guitar, and like that was something to accompany singing. So you're not just singing by yourself.
Yeah.
And when we would compete, you would have to read music. They would give you a sheet of music, and they give you the first note. And then you had to go from there and read this whole piece of music and sing it like la 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 la.
Wow.
And I always preferred, I never was a fan of really singing a cappella unless you're like singing with a group and there's harmonies. That's cool. But like just by yourself, it's like, And I never loved my voice. So I loved that guitar almost kind of like covered up my insecurities with my voice. And I think I never liked my voice because it's not really a normal female voice. It's not, I'm more of like an alto.
Really?
It's a little lower. I can hit some high notes and stuff, but definitely more comfortable in the alto range. And I don't know, I feel like my voice is weird, my talking voice.
Really? I think it sounds cool.
No, yeah.
And your singing voice is
I
so
think
good.
I'm used to it now, 37 years later. But when I was
Right.
like 18, 19, I mean, I grew up listening to like, No Doubt, Gwen Stefani. I mean, she had that like nasally, like, but she had like a cool voice. I don't think I ever really got comfortable with my voice until I was in high school and found out about the band The Muffs.
Oh my God.
And when I heard Kim Shattuck's voice, also Bikini Kill, Kathleen Hanna has hers is much higher and it's more not as like melodic, but Kim's voice, just like I was like, holy crap, this is another person with like a voice that's not the normal female like fa la 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 la.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was so cool. No, like Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears. Like I feel like those were like the quote unquote female role models of our generation. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Whereas Kim was just so edgy
Oh,
and like
my-
raw and kind of like
Yeah.
powerful and just like kind of like a kick in the face, and but also like it sounded so good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, I was so obsessed with her voice. I remember we were visiting Berkeley School of Music. I thought I wanted to go there. We were in a record store in Boston. And we were staying in like, what is it, Harvard Square or whatever. Honestly, I wish I remembered the location. But my mom went to Boston University and my dad went to Boston College of Optometry. So we had been to Boston quite a bit. And yeah, I went to this record store and it was so cool. It was such a cool record store. And they had little Discmans. And you
Yeah.
can listen to the albums. And they sold like used CDs.
cool.
You could listen before you bought them. And I remember finding the record, one of the Muffs record, Blonder and Blonder. And I saw the like cover and I was like, this looks so cool. Like, who the fuck are these people? And put it in, obsessed. I was just like, I couldn't stop listening. My mom, I remember, I didn't have a cell phone at the time and she was like looking for me, couldn't find me. And I had the headphones on,
You're just like
Yeah.
in a different realm.
So I feel like after discovering the Muffs and Bikini Kill, but I feel like really the Muffs made me realize that, like, you know what, like your voice doesn't have to be like every other voice, and it almost is kind of cool to like be a little different.
Right. It makes you stand out.
Yeah. So then I wanted to. I had been playing a little guitar at that point, but that really like pushed it. And I became obsessed with guitar. I would stay up till like gosh, I would stay up till like 2, 3 a.m. on like school nights when I was in high school. I was in like ninth or 10th grade, and my mom would like, I guess she would hear me and come in. And
How old, just quickly, how old is ninth and 10th grade? Just because that's the American.
I think it's like 14,
Okay.
15, 14, 15. And I just became obsessed with the Beatles. I learned about tablature, tabs, and that was really how I learned to play guitar. I'd been taking lessons, and I would bring them like Zeppelin songs I wanted to learn and all these other things. But I learned how to really I learned about music structure listening to the Beatles. Also, initially. And, the verse, chorus, bridge, chorus,
Yeah.
so, I really picked it up from there, and then I kind of started writing my own songs. I feel like in high school I was a weird kid, still weird, but definitely. I had a group of there were like 8 girls, so there were 8 of us. A few of us played instruments and were really into music. There were about 4 or 5 of us who were really into it. So one of my other friends played guitar. One of my other friends picked up the bass, and she played bass. And then I taught one of my friends drums because I had played that first. And our first band ever was a Strokes cover band.
No way.
It's like the most random mix of music.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we loved the Strokes in high school. We used to go and see them. And we always had fake IDs, all of that. So,
They just played last night.
yeah, they just played last night. I know, I haven't seen them play
Forest
in
Hills?
years. I can't believe it's so amazing. They went from playing like Arlene's Grocery and like Brownies, which is no longer here, to MSG, Forest Hills, like stadiums. They are just so huge. Good for them. Amazing. But
Wait, and not to interrupt you, but I remember when I saw the Strokes at Madison Square Garden, and Elvis Costello made an appearance.
yep. And we were at Gramercy Theater waiting for Elvis Costello. I think we were texting at the time, and you were at the show, and you're like, Elvis Costello's here or something. We had texted, oh my God, that was before we were like dating. That was when we were just like
Right?
hanging here and there.
That was a real coincidence. Sorry, to sidetrack you.
Yeah, why are you trying to throw me off, man? I'm so ADHD.
I just thought that was really
as is.
topical. I was like, oh, let me throw that in. But
so
that was the band. It was an all
all girls.
Strokes cover band.
Yeah, and then eventually we a year later, one of the drummer, Becky, one of my really close friends who's amazing, she went away to college, and so our friend's boyfriend came and sat in on drums, and we became Drella, which was kind of like an Andy Warhol tribute, because I think they used to call him like a mix of Dracula and Cinderella. Drella.
Oh, wow.
Something I can't remember. It was so long ago. But and then after that, I went to college. I went to college for like 2 weeks. So I grew up, and I was born in Brooklyn, and when I was a kid, we moved to Long Beach in Long Island. Grew up there, but both of my grandmas one lived in Brooklyn, one lived in Manhattan. So on the weekends, we were either in Brooklyn or Manhattan. It was awesome. And my grandma who lived in Manhattan had given me a key to her apartment when I was in high school. So me and my friends would go to concerts on the weekends and then sleep there, because in the winter, she would be away in Florida. It was fucking awesome.
In the West Village. Right?
Yeah, well, she was on 5th Avenue and 9th Street, so she was right in, like, Greenwich Village, walking distance to, like, we hung out on St. Mark's, and there were all these, like, record stores on there, and there used to be, is the Sock Man still there?
The Sock Man?
Yeah. There was a store, it was called the Sock Man, and they just sold all these funky socks. And I remember the first person who would, like, literally ever blatantly hit on me was someone who worked at that store, and he was this, like, hipster-looking guy. I think I was, like, 16. And I had gone to see, I forgot who I went to see alone. Maybe it might have been Supergrass. I went by myself. And I stayed at my grandma's apartment. I was like walking on St. Mark's, and he was like, "You want to make out or something?" And I thought I was like the coolest person ever. I was like, oh my God. Because I was in high school. People are like, I feel like now it's really different. Kids are like very like, I don't know. After watching Euphoria, it's like, whoa, my high school experience was not like that. But so it was really cool just getting to experience all that. My friends would come into the city. We would go, CBGBs was 16 and over. So
That's crazy.
yeah,
I never
we
knew
would
that.
we would go to like, and they had matinee shows sometimes. Like it was really cool. So we found out some really cool bands just going to CBGBs. And they were
avoiding the bathrooms. That's what I've heard.
oh yeah. Oh God, I have so many stories about CBGBs. But like playing there and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got really, really into music, and New York was the place to be for it. And the Strokes were playing all around. The Yeah Yeah Yeahs used to play. I feel like we used to see them run into them all the time, and they were so cool, so nice. I feel like a picture. I remember meeting Julian Casablancas in high school, and he like grabbed my face and just like kissed me, not like a makeout, just smooch right on the lips. But he was just such a sweet. I'm sure he was
Were you like, I'm never washing my face again?
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding? We, like, had them call our friends when we met them. We used to run into them a bunch. And then it was so funny. I feel like we used to run into the drummer all the time. It became, like, a running joke. Whenever I'd see Fabrizio, one time he had to use my phone because his died. And we would just run into them. We loved this band Long Wave and became friendly with the guitarist, Shannon. And the Strokes, I think, had toured with them. They were all friends. And so we would see them at Long Wave, and we would be talking to the band. They'd be there. And it was so cool. The coolest, But yeah, just being surrounded by all that, I knew I was like, this is what I was meant to do.
Yeah.
This is what I was put on this earth to do. So I dropped out of college. I went to college for liberal arts. Wanted to major in music, but they really only had classical and jazz. They had no contemporary programs. I was just at CUNY City College. I didn't end up going to Berklee School of Music. I had a teacher to actually talk me out of it. My music teacher at the time was like, wouldn't you rather be a big fish in a little sea than a little fish in a big sea? So
Makes
like,
sense.
he was like, why are you going to spend all that money, go to Berklee? Like it's all musicians. Like not to say you're not talented, but like, So, college for 2 weeks, hated it. The only class I liked, and I think I took like 1 or 2 tests and got like an A, was music history, which was really cool and interesting to me. But other than that, I hated everything. I would have like panic attacks in class. I felt trapped. I'm like,
wasn't for you.
School was never like the senior year in high school. I feel like I like barely went. You ask any of my friends, they're like, Abby who? No.
They were like, we didn't see you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up one point, and not to interrupt. Wasn't there a moment that you told me about at high school where, like you said before, you were like, I was always kind of a weirdo, and like, like you had, like you just kind of did your own thing and were like an individual. But didn't you say, was there a moment where you played like on stage or something, like in a school assembly or something, and like it was like you kind of got a reaction that you maybe weren't expecting?
Yeah. We did. We used to have a talent show every year, and they made you. We did it junior year of high school, which is 11th grade, and then senior year of high school, which is 12th grade. I did them both. But the junior year of high school, we did our Strokes cover band.
No way.
And I played, like I did the solos and I sang too.
Wow.
So it was really funny because I think people just saw like 4 girls and were like, oh, this is going to suck. And then fucking just had their like minds
got their socks blown off.
Yeah. And I feel like people actually like respected us. Like some of the cool kids were like, that was fucking awesome.
Wow.
And then the following year, me and one of my friends who had done it the year before, we did a White Stripes song. So she usually plays guitar, but she did drums.
Yeah.
We worked together on that. And I did guitar and sang. And we did like Hello Operator, the White Stripes song, which is on White Blood Cells or Distill. I can't remember. One of their first two
Okay.
albums, going into another White Stripes song.
Yeah.
And that also had like some like lead guitar, and it was pretty. It was nothing crazy complex, but it was so much fun. And yeah, I feel like we just blew minds. People,
Was that for your first time playing to an audience, like a reasonable
yes.
audience?
Well, yes, with the all girl band. Yes, it was the first time playing. I remember feeling sick. I felt like I was gonna shit myself. And
Before.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're like standing there, all set up before they're opening the curtains. My stomach
Oh my
hurt.
God.
I'm like sweating.
I can imagine.
Oh my gosh. But by the end, it was so fun. And then the following year when we did it, it was so much fun.
Wow.
And we killed it. And yeah, I actually ended up, for our high school, they have like, all like most blah, blah, blah. And they had most musical.
What?
And I ended up winning that, which was just so funny. In our yearbook, there's just a picture.
It's so
Me
cool
and
that
the-
you just kind of like followed your heart kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and just by doing that and then just kind of like, getting on stage and just just saying, you know what, this is me, this is what I do. Like, maybe you like it, maybe you hate it. Like, I really don't care. This is just me. And then having that kind of reinforcement, by
Yeah.
the audience must have really, something like, I'm sure before you were probably like, this is cool, you're really enjoying it, but just, I feel like just getting that reinforcement, must have been like, oh my God, like the popular kids are coming up now and, saying they liked it. Like it probably felt like you landed on another planet or something.
It's so funny because I feel like before that, like, boys didn't pay attention to me. And then I feel like I almost felt like a dude because I feel like so many guys I talk to are like, yeah, I started playing guitar for the girls, like, whatever,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
rock and roll, sex, drugs, rock and roll.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because I felt like people then started paying attention to me, like never had attention before. And, like it was so funny and just, yeah.
That's so cool.
It was just, man, it was so long ago too. I'm just like, shit. I feel like there are years of my life that I just don't remember,
Yeah.
just from like being in a band, being in the music scene, just like drinking your life away. But yeah, so
And then
dropped out of college, went off. Everyone went to college, did their own thing, and I was living in the New Yorker hotel. I went to CUNY City College, and I told my parents I was living in the city, and they were gonna pay for it, and they were just like, "Shit, we don't really. Do we have a choice?" I'm like, my parents.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
like, they just wanted me to be happy. They're the
Judy and
best.
Vern, I mean, they're just amazing.
The best. So, yeah, I lived in the New Yorker hotel. They had a few floors for like student housing. I think there was like 3 floors, but it was interesting because there were also people who like gone back to college. There was this guy who was like, we were all like 18, 19, just entering college, or some people like their second year or whatever. But like then there were like old guys like in their late 20s, early 30s who I guess were going back to college and like were living in the dorms. There's this one guy that everyone called Buffalo Bill because he was such a creep. And I think, was that like a serial rapist or murderer or something? I'm pretty sure it was.
Buffalo, really?
The guy, I remember one time he saw me carrying a guitar to my room and followed me and was like, oh, can you play me something? And I was like, no, I gotta go. And just like shut my door and locked it. Yeah.
Can you play me something? You'd be like,
Yeah. Exactly. I'm pretty sure I just like, as soon as the person, I felt their eyes on me and following me, I just, me and my fucking neurotic Jewish anxiety, just start sweating and my heart's racing. And I'm like, must get away.
yeah.
So I started a band then I dropped out of college. I interned at a record label. Gosh, I wish I could remember the name of it. Frank actually knew the owner of the label. They were a small label. They had some mid to bigger indie bands signed to them. And they were in Dumbo, Brooklyn. I lasted at the internship for 2 days. After my first day of working, my friend and I went out that night to celebrate that I got the job, and I got so drunk that the next day I was so hungover, and they had me doing data entry, which I've never done in my life. And I remember sitting there and I fell asleep at the computer. And I was in this, like, Dumbo is so cool now and it's so established, but in 2004, it was not like that.
Yeah.
It was like still like desolate, and it was like, you know, like I was in this warehouse with
keep
like,
your eyes just open at all times kind of thing.
I mean, it was just more just desolate, and like, I don't know, it just wasn't like hip yet.
Okay.
And I remember, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Being in this warehouse with like 5 other dudes. I was the only girl. The bathroom was like right there. It was just like, it was so like, no, like it was not a place for, there was no place for a woman in that company. It was just so weird. So I fell asleep the second day doing data entry. And then that night I was just like, I can't do this. I don't want to work on the business side of music. I thought I did, but I don't.
Yeah.
So I quit the internship, but I lied to my parents for like a year that I was doing the internship. So they were fully supporting me while I'm supposedly like doing this internship with this record label to potentially like eventually get a job and all that. But I quit after 2 days. Clearly I'm a fucking quitter. And
it just wasn't, it wasn't your scene.
Yeah. I didn't love it. It was boring to me. So, I just spent like that year partying, and I started a band called the Lookaways, and yeah, we just started playing shows, and we were like a pop punk band, very similar, very influenced by, I feel like, the Muffs and Bikini Kill. Like, we played with some really fun bands.
Was that the band that you did the Warped Tour stuff?
Yeah, we played the Warped Tour. That was so fun too. We did a few dates on the Warped Tour. We did a ton of stuff. It was really cool. And then eventually, what happened? I guess, yeah, I had been dating the drummer, and then we broke up, and I think I tried to find drummers and all that, and we tried one guy out, and he just smoked all this weed all the time, and I kept trying to reinvent the band, and this one drummer smoked weed all the time, so his timing was so off.
Oh.
And I'm like, really, you know how OCD I am about like timing. People like just play the right thing, like, and like,
it's like, especially the drummer, right?
Oh my God, it drove me crazy. And eventually I just stepped back, and then I was like, okay, let me like take a breather, and took a couple years, reinvented myself to form Wise Girl and studied music more.
What year are we now?
Oh my God, I don't know. Maybe like 2000 and
like 8 or 9 or something?
Yeah, probably 2009. 2008, 9. Maybe I started in 2008. I probably took like a year or two in between, maybe a year, but just started. I was just really like went through my first like huge breakup. Not first, but I've been through other breakups, but this was someone I was with for like almost 3 years. So I was 22 and figuring it out. You know, I also had joined this all girl band called the Lipsticks. That was really cool too. We had a practice space in Williamsburg, and we would play at like Trash Bar, all of that. But I was battling anxiety like crazy, and I remember, playing with the Lipsticks. I remember having panic. My panic attacks started really bad. One time we had a photo shoot at Trash Bar, and one of the girls in the band was a bartender at Trash Bar. So she like got us to use the downstairs, and she like knew everyone. So she got her friend who's a photographer to shoot us for free. All of a sudden, we're all sitting there, and I just start dripping sweat, and everyone's like, "Are you okay? You're sweating a lot." And I start freaking out, run upstairs, and I just start taking some shots. Because that was really the only thing that helped my anxiety at the time. And finally, I couldn't calm myself down. I was so upset and so pissed at myself that I was like letting this interfere with my life. And eventually we took some pictures, and I'm like in the back in the shadows. You can't really see my face. It kind of just like killed the whole vibe for me, you know?
Was it anxiety brought on by anything in particular?
Well, I don't think I really took the best care of myself back then. I was definitely, I used to smoke cigarettes, which are uppers. And little did I know they actually like were a big culprit in my anxiety at the time. They make
Really?
it worse. I was like, oh, I need a cigarette. I'm anxious. Thinking it would make me feel better. And then all of a sudden my heart's racing and I'm like,
I didn't
and
know cigarettes were uppers.
yeah, cigarettes,
So they kind of hype you up.
nicotine. Yeah.
Because I could never smoke because my
Well, that's asthma.
paper lungs.
Yeah, your paper lungs. I mean, it's for the best. You're probably gonna live out, longer than me.
Unless I have an asthma attack.
I have asthma too. Remember?
I know.
So, yeah, but it wasn't just
Okay, it's a
cigarettes.
lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've had anxiety since, I think it really started in like high school and just kind of progressed from there. And then as you get into the real world, I had a rough time when I first moved here. All my friends went off to college, like in dorms, and I was living by myself. I loved it. Do not get me wrong. I've always been like a weirdo loner. Love doing stuff alone. Love going to lunch alone. It's the best, like having like a cocktail or three, and just hanging out. Like I've never really had issues with being alone. I kind of have preferred it in the past, but I think just having attention on me. I wasn't used to having attention on me, and then I had my band, but the lookaways. I feel like majority of that time I was probably drunk. My poor parents, I don't know how the hell they dealt with me. I remember going home for holidays, not eating, just sitting there drinking wine and then being like, okay, bye, I'm going out. And them just like not really knowing what to do. I would like get into a fight with my parents and they were supporting me at the time as well. So I was such a dick.
Kind of biting the hand that feeds you kind
Well,
of thing.
then I was like, I saw it as my mom trying to control me with money and, but it's your parents. They're concerned about your well-being, like all of that, which makes complete sense. So I was drinking a lot also. And I realized now, at the sweet and tender age of 37. Now, I realized it probably in my mid-20s that alcohol and being hungover the next day makes my anxiety a billion times
Through the
worse.
roof, yeah.
And then, but at the time, I just kept the cycle going. So it was like, I was the total party kid at that time, too. And I had gone to makeup school, but even that, I almost didn't graduate because I missed so much class because I had such bad anxiety. It would affect my stomach, or I'd be too hungover to go, and that I'd be panicking. So I remember finishing makeup school. I had a bunch of makeup days I had to do because I missed so many classes. Or like, my favorite band would be in town, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to the concert, have a couple drinks, and then go home, and then I'd hang out with them after, and they'd invite me out.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I remember I had this band I used to love called the Gore Girls from Detroit. Loved them since high school. They came to town. And I don't even know how it happened, but we were talking, and I just was talking with the band after the show, and then they invited me out to this old bar called what was that old bar in the Lower East Side that used to be so fucking cool?
Not
Motor City. Motor City. I forgot, one of their friends was DJing there, who's like a big rock and roll band. I can't even remember. So they would invite me out, and then I was like, fuck, I was fucking 19, I was like 20. Wow. 21, I can't remember. I was so young. It was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to go. And then, had to go to school, and it was like, fuck.
Damn.
So I had been struggling with anxiety for a while, but I feel like when I was in the lipsticks, it really started accumulating. Also, I guess because I was doing the lookaways at the same time at one point. And then once, I feel like my anxiety actually, maybe that was actually a reason why I took a break from the lookaways as well. There was a lot of stuff that went on, but once the lipsticks kind of fizzled, I just kind of took some downtime, had no band for a while, and was focusing on writing music. I was doing makeup as well, of doing test shoots, like trying to work my way into the industry, but still, like, I wasn't doing it enough to like fully support myself yet. When you assist as a makeup artist, you're
not getting much.
Nothing. And back in the day, now it's so funny because now running a business where I hire hair and makeup artists to work for me, and I have a couple of the younger girls who are on the team that also assist, and I hear their rates for assisting now, and I'm like, damn, I made like, not even like, I made like a third of that, if even, which, whatever. But it was a great experience, all great experiences. And then I really started getting into music again. I guess I really missed it.
When is this getting close to the time where Wise Girl was being conceived?
I was trying to figure out what my next step was gonna be. Jeez, it's like I rewound it for you. And my friend and and then I was like, let me start a music publishing company. Maybe I can start publishing my own songs. Oh, that's it. I got really into songwriting.
Yeah.
I read books. I was obsessed with, oh my God, what was her name? Cara Dioguardi, who was, she used to be on American Idol, but before that she wrote for literally everyone. Linda Perry, who wrote with like Pink, and I got really into songwriting and obsessed. And I guess it's funny because I have the worst ADHD. I feel like it's definitely the culprit of some of our arguments. You getting frustrated with me, which is completely understandable because I'm definitely all over the place sometimes and like slamming the toilet seat, not even realizing like all the things you point out. How loud do I generally sneeze? Like supersonic sneezing, like.
Are we breaking the wall? Which wall is it? The fifth wall? The fourth wall? I don't know.
What's that?
Because now we're talking about us as we're doing the
shit.
podcast. No.
Is that a good thing?
Hey, anything's possible on Rock and Roll Weirdos.
Anything goes.
You do sneeze really loud, and
I cut you off all the time.
You do cut me off.
Or if you're telling me a story.
You just like pick up your phone and start looking something up and... Yeah.
Okay, but the one benefit is the things that you really love and are really interested in, you fucking hyper focus. And that's how I was with music and makeup. Those are probably the only two things in my life that consistently for years, because I would start projects and or I'd start things and quit all the time. I'd be like, I want to do this. And then I'd want to quit. My brother would be playing soccer. I want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. My parents are like, we just paid for a year of you doing this. You can't just back out.
Yeah, drop out.
Yeah, everything. I did. I remember one year I convinced my dad. This is after makeup school. And a costume shop was going out of sale going out of business in like Ohio or something. And I saw on Craigslist they were selling their whole makeup thing for like all of their stuff. I think it was, my poor dad. It must have been like $7,000 or something. And I'm like, Dad. Got my dad. My dad's an eye doctor, runs a business. He ran the practice. So...
Wait, you didn't make Burn schlep all the way over there, did you?
No, worse. I was like, Dad, let's order all this and I'm going to resell it and make a profit and I'll pay you back what you paid. And my dad's like, oh, my daughter's a genius, businesswoman just like me.
Oh.
And
this sounds like Will Smith in The Pursuit of Happiness with those X-ray machines. When he buys them all, we're going to make $1 million.
Yeah.
I need to find out that like...
Well, no, I really just wanted the makeup for myself. So I was like so stoked. I had all this makeup and blah, blah, blah. And then when it was like actually came to selling it, I'm like, that's not fun. So eventually like that didn't end up happening. But
did you have a room in your house that just was full of that makeup?
No, it was all in my apartment like it is now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, come on. Our apartment is what, 10% your stuff.
Yeah.
10% my stuff,
And
and
then
then
80%
80%
makeup.
makeup. Okay. So that's how it was at the time. And eventually, I don't know what I think my parents did something. So they ended up donating it and like added up the retail. So they ended up getting like a $4,000 tax write off. So it wasn't a full loss.
Okay.
My dad got creative, thank God. But this is just a little example of these ideas.
Yeah,
You know, you
yeah,
come
yeah.
up with these ideas, but then it's like the follow through, that work. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So the only things I really, when it came to music, I ended up learning the business side. I kind of learned as I went. I read so many books. I got really into it, and I wanted to start a music publishing company. And my friend Nikki and I were going to do that together. She studied music business in school, and she had graduated from college. I think we were around 23 at this point. And we were wise girl, whatever. So I was doing so much research on the music publishing, music business side, like different royalties, blah, 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 how it worked, co-publishing deals, like all of these things, which actually worked to my benefit later down the line when getting farther in the music industry. But we wanted to name it Wise Girl, and we got Wise Girl from so I was obsessed with the Strokes, and their management company was called Whiz Kid. And I was like, what's a badass, like, woman? I was always been badass women running a company. Like, that's always been my thing still, even now, you know? Like, and I'm like, Wise Girl. That's our publishing company.
Name.
So I ended up starting a new band, and I had all these songs. I changed my songwriting a lot. I got, like, even more comfortable with my voice. Got really more into writing melodies and really like different melodies, key changes, getting a little more technically advanced, meeting Fasulo.
Oh my God.
Fasulo, my producer.
We need to get Fasulo on this.
Yeah.
We need to somehow
maybe he'll be
him.
in the next one.
Maybe we can convince. Yeah, that would be awesome.
I think we should.
Yeah.
That would be so cool to just, Fasulo is like, I feel like he's
just
a relative at this point.
Producer, engineer, like
guitarist.
I remember playing with him and really just being like blown away. Like I was like, this guy can
arranger, vocal arranger,
Oh.
like everything. He does everything, and
the nicest guy.
Nicest guy. So I was writing these songs. And with key changes and everything. And it's so funny. I almost worked with one of my friends recording. And he wanted me to change the song. And I had talked to Fasulo. And he told me his rates. I was introduced to him. He recorded the album of these guys I was good friends with in high school. Who I was still friends with. And one of them played in the Lookaways for our first show. He subbed in Joey Mack. McInerney. He had a band called, oh my God, why can't I remember? They're now called the New Rochelle's. Mm-hmm. The New Rochelle's? Fuck. Whatever. It doesn't...
The Regulars?
Sorry.
Spinal Tap. And then they changed their name to the Regulars.
Yeah.
And then we went to the...
It's not the New Rochelle's. Because New Rochelle is a town in Long Island. Westchester. Oh my God. My sister-in-law is from New Rochelle. Cyrus from New Rochelle. Whatever. Okay, so he worked on their album, and I always loved this album. It sounded like radio-ready, professional, and I remember being mind-blown. So I was introduced to him. We became friends. We started talking. He told me his rates, and I really wanted to work with him, but I was broke. I had no money. My parents at the time were, like, supporting me, so I was like, I couldn't ask them. I was like, no way. And I was like, trying to figure out what to do. And I ended up working with a friend of mine who went to school for music, and he was really talented, but he tried to make me this first song we ever did called Time Flies.
Okay.
This guy was like, we got to change the whole chorus. It doesn't make sense. And the melody was like, whatever. It was different.
Yeah.
But it was so fucking cool. And it really, like, I loved it. And I remember I worked on it with this other guy, not going to name names, and sent it over to Chris. And he was like, okay, this guy ruined the song. He's changing all the best parts. Like, those melodies are so cool.
Wow.
And he's like, I'll do your first song for free. And I guarantee you're going to want to work with me after that.
Yeah.
We did the song. Of course, he was right. And I had all these other songs because I had taken like a little hiatus and spent like a full year just kind of did some, obviously makeup work as well. But I was so, music was like, that was
number one.
Number one. And yeah, and especially after studying songwriters and just reading their histories, I was like, fuck, I could do this.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you doing, Abby?
You get a bit too cerebral about it. Like, and you're just like, wait.
That's it. And so I feel like once we did that song, it was over. Me and Chris were just like, I was like, oh my God, you have to play guitar in my band. He was so talented. He played everything and he programmed the drums. We didn't even need a drummer for that one. They sounded so real. I feel like, was the first person who ever like got me.
He's like on your wavelength.
Yes.
I was just going to say before, it's like, but how awesome that you kind of like, when that other guy was telling you, no, this chorus, it doesn't work, we need to change this, change that. Like, there was just, you just listened to yourself, like listen to your instinct and was like, you know what? No, I think this is good. I think I'm on the right track. And I kind of feel like you're pushing me in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess meeting Fasulo and finding someone who's like, no, you're absolutely right. Like that, you're going to be removing the best parts. So it's like when you find someone that you just connect with and just you have the same kind of vision, it's
crazy.
Just like you must have just been like, I need this guy, like I need
well
him.
Also then realizing a producer's actual job is a lot bigger than most people think.
I still don't understand what a producer does.
Yeah, you do, because you worked with Chris. You bring him the song and he just brings it to life. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I did no, yeah, actually I should probably, I guess, yeah, no, you're right. I should pay more attention, but like it's so like seeing what like he does, like and
or why don't we add this? It would sound really cool if we stop here, do a pause, and then, or let's slow it down at this part and remove, everything else for like, the end of whatever, and then we come back in big, or just like all these things that like open up your eyes, and like, at least I myself at the time would have never thought of, and it kind of makes you look at music in a completely different way. And it's really fucking cool, which is why, me and Chris started working together after that. I had my parents, I had a bat mitzvah. I'm a Jew from Long Island. My bat mitzvah was bigger than our wedding. Represent. It was bigger than our wedding. It was at like a hall. And we got married in a restaurant.
I always see you have those CD cases.
Yeah.
Abby's rocking.
Oh, Abby's drum roll. Drums. I was obsessed with drums at the time. So they were my like, you had to have a theme when you had your bat mitzvah. So it was like Abby's drum roll.
Did you play drums at your bat mitzvah?
No, I didn't play them there, but I played drums. So that's why. Yeah.
But
they were my hyper focus at the time.
Gotcha.
As a child, But you
didn't play it at your bat mitzvah?
No, why would I do that?
Well, because it said Abby's drum roll. I thought,
no,
maybe
it's not
Abby
even like that.
Drums.
I mean, I guess now everything's extravagant, but it's like we had like dancers. Did you ever see my bat mitzvah video?
No.
With like all my friends from when we're like 13. We're like hideous. It's like the awkward times. I was like so fat. I had a like pudgy round face, and then my mom for some reason got me this like, we got this dress and it was like seafoam green. I almost looked like a baby beluga whale. And like, I mean, if you see Liz looks the same. My best friend since kindergarten, who we just saw last night. Yeah. Other Liz also, she probably looks the same.
Yeah.
But we all just it was like a very awkward phase for us.
Like everybody goes through that. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the kids that don't have the awkward phase end up being really strange looking adults or just not very smart. So I feel like that awkward phase builds character.
It does, because you're just kind of like awkward, and then
you're like, shit,
grow into something else, and you are still that awkward kid, but you're almost like in this different suit.
See,
you know what I mean?
I feel like it's like, I was so awkward and unattractive then. The way I got people to like me was like by gaining a personality. and
yeah.
a
Just
sense
that
of
was kind of
humor.
your
Yes.
defense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I am so grateful for because I love that about me.
Yeah.
And
You're like fearless, like
definitely that's not true, but
probably internally, but externally it always appears,
that's funny.
It's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did we get to bat mitzvah? Oh, talking about the drum roll, Abby's drum roll, and then what were we talking about before that? Fasulo.
Oh yeah, just like how.
Oh, how a music producer, whatever. Okay, so let's go back there because I have a tendency,
Wise
tangents, whatever. So I begged Chris to join Wise Girl. It's so funny because before I even met Chris, Seth, who's also a really good friend of mine, I would run into him all the time, and at the time he used to he was doing sound engineering at studios. So I remember running into him and trying to convince him to record me for free. I'm like, I have no money. Work with me. I'm like, I'll give you publishing points. Let's trade. And he at the time was like, what's in it for me? Literally said that to my face. Can't you imagine Seth saying that?
I can imagine.
Shout out Seth Castle.
The other
fucking
man.
Love you. He's so fucking talented.
He's so good.
He was then, and he is even more so now.
He's like, I feel like he's the closest thing to like
Johnny
he reminds me of
Cash.
Elvis. Yeah, Elvis with Johnny Cash.
Guys, check out Seth Kessel, Kessel, and Chris Fasulo. But Fasulo, we're gonna you're gonna have an actual. Maybe we'll get Seth on here too.
I mean,
oh my God, can you make a list? Because I am not gonna remember this shit.
Yeah, no, I'll remember.
I feel like these are all just
because my
epic.
list is pretty sparse.
Your list is my list.
I think your list is my list.
My list is your list.
Exactly.
So
Seth, Chris, if we can twist their arm.
Yeah.
But okay, so you wanted Seth to get the points, and then so did he end up joining Wise Girl?
No, I didn't. No. I didn't end up working with him. Then eventually, me and Fasulo ended up. We did that one song, and then my bat mitzvah. This is why I brought it up. So. All the kids, everyone who had the big bat mitzvahs got to buy themselves it's almost so a bat mitzvah is like a Jewish
Sweet 16 or something.
Well, no, it's almost like a wedding, like the place that we had it at, especially the big ones. There was a cocktail hour, there was then a sit down dinner, we had a DJ, we had dancers.
I feel like there's in New Zealand, there's nothing like that. That's so I remember when you told me about it.
Yeah.
And you're like, I had my bat mitzvah, and then you explained to me the difference between bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah.
Yeah, bar is for boys, and so mine was big, and so you got presents, and it's like a wedding. So my parents let me keep. I think they let me keep $100.
Yeah.
And everything else had to go into this account that they started for me when I was a kid.
It's so smart.
And, they put it in investing, and they kept adding, when I would have, or bigger birthdays, whatever, or they, and when I was a kid, they would put money in, which was amazing because then once I was, I think I was 24 or something, or 25, I had access to it, and I didn't even know about this. That's the funny thing. I probably didn't know about it until I was 24, and they told me.
Probably better you didn't know about it.
Oh, of course. I couldn't access it, so it doesn't matter. I guess they call it, is that it's not really a trust fund, because I feel like that's millionaires. We're really not there. But I remember after I worked with Chris, he joined the band. We had such a great relationship. We came up with a little deal on the back end with the songs. And we did a 5-song EP, which was Wise Girl's first EP. And he said, I'll charge you $500 a song. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. He did $500 a song, and then he was going to get a percentage on the back end if anything happened with the song. Mm-hmm. So it was perfect because this was such a talented person. He believed in me enough that he was like, oh, these songs can go somewhere. So I'm going to take my time, rather than he makes good money for what he does. And, that was really, really cool.
He saw potential, because if he didn't, he would have been like, you know what, just give me $1,000 a song.
Exactly. Or his normal
more,
rate.
Or whatever it is.
It's his normal high hourly rate. So we did the EP, and I, having studied all the, back end music stuff, I was like, we need a publicist. So then call my dad, play him the song, and me and Chris were talking about it, and Chris was like, talk to your dad and explain to him that this is a business venture. And my dad heard the EP and was mind blown. at how
Wow.
good it was. My whole family was like mind blown.
That must have been a cool moment.
It was wild. And I remember my brother hearing it and just being like shocked because they were like, the EP. You heard the EP. It was
rad. It was
was
just like,
so good.
I remember I was so impressed, and not to take over your rock and roll weirdos, but I do remember moving
Well,
to.
it's your rock and roll weirdo.
Well, you're
Here.
the talent. You know what I mean? I'm just like the mannequin.
Yeah,
in the
but
corner.
you're the son of the famous music journalist.
Right.
So let's
Well,
not forget
maybe
to
just
shout
like
out Dylan Tate.
Dylan Tate, right? I know. I'm trying to. I honestly am, and sometimes in this, I'm like, what would Dad do? You know, like, what would Dad? Because he's
Yeah.
so good. He was so good at like listening and kind of crafting and kind of just gently guiding. But
Just
like,
a little background. Paul's dad was a really big music journalist in New Zealand named Dylan Tate. And he's interviewed everyone and worked with everyone from the Sex Pistols to Bob Marley to Paul McCartney to... Fuck, who hasn't he worked
that's
with?
crazy. The Ramones, like,
Ramones, Sex Pistols. Did I say
you
that?
said
I
Sex
did.
Pistols. I mean, the Bob Marley one was one of the, I think, was so unique because Bob Marley didn't do interviews. So when he came to New Zealand, he was not.
Didn't your dad find out where he was playing
That was
soccer?
the thing. That was the thing. I think, and I don't know the full. I don't know the full story. But from what I've heard, it was something like, I think Dad just was there, and Dad. But it's the thing. Dad loved football, soccer. So and Bob Marley was like football, soccer. I'll say both of it. Soccer, like mad. So like I think Dad. I don't even know how he kind of even started talking to him, but they just started chatting, and with this love of like soccer, and it just kind of merged. Like, hey, let's kick the ball around for a little bit. Then they're kicking the ball around, and then I have no idea how the topic was broached. Like, would you want to do an interview?
So your dad got
But he
the
accepted.
only interview that he ever
it's
did in New Zealand or something?
in New Zealand, and also the world. Like, that's probably one of the, like, he just did not. If you go on YouTube and do like Bob Marley interviews, like,
There's not many.
there's not many, and Dad's one was like really like really substantial, So, but that was just the whole thing, and I think it was just Dad's whole approach was just talk to people. You know what I mean? That was like, even
Listen.
when we did this, I was like, we don't even have questions written down or anything. I mean,
Yeah.
for you it's a bit easier. I think for other people, we'll to do some homework. But like, it was just more like, let's make it organic and just chat and just see what happens. If it sucks, it sucks. If it's something good comes up,
or
it does.
take out the good parts and
then-
use them. And,
Yeah. So
and then my ADHD babbling would cut.
now I'm like, now I've lost track of what
Okay,
we're
well,
talking
whatever. We were just both like, I was saying it's your rock and roll weirdos,
Yeah.
and you were saying I'm the talent, and then I
Yeah.
was like, well,
Yeah.
you're the son of the music
Yeah.
journalist, so
And
we're
here
both
we are.
talented
We're both talented
in our own ways.
in our own unique ways.
So yeah, we did the EP, got a publicist, started working with a publicist, and actually I signed with a publicist in LA, and we were doing a ton of stuff. We went to LA and got to visit like Daisy Rock guitars.
And you were sponsored by them, weren't you?
I was sponsored by them.
That was a cool guitar. I remember that.
Yeah. Well, it's
Sparkly.
funny because that was actually my mom. My mom got a guitar. So after I started playing guitar again, seriously, my mom was like, "Oh, we should jam," and I'm like, "Mom, leave me alone." So she ended up getting that guitar, and I ended up taking it over. But I just loved the like glitter pink sparkles. Like, it made me happy. I loved how it sounded. It
Sounded great. It sounded
Les
like
Pauly, but it was so light, so lightweight. I always hated how the Les Pauls are so fucking heavy.
that's what I've heard.
They're
I
heavy,
never played all those.
and they're like the I feel like the headstock is like not even that big, and I'm a giant, so I feel like it's so funny because Chris was always like, "You should play a flying V. That would look so cool," and I'm like, "No, it wouldn't. I'm big. I'm like 6 feet tall. Like, I'm not like a tiny. I'm
Yeah.
not little. It
Yeah.
it would have looked weird.
Yeah.
That's why I loved the Daisy Rock and the Telecaster too.
Yeah, the Telecaster.
I also used to play a 70s reissue Strat at one point, but I loved the Telecaster. My two favorites were the Tele and the Daisy Rock, and I had my little distortion pedal and my tuning pedal, and I had one other pedal. Did I? I had 3 at one point. What was the other one? One was, I don't know, one Fasulo was just like, you need to get this pedal when we play live. And I'm just like, okay.
Just get
Okay,
it.
boss.
Yeah. Okay, boss.
That was a lot of it, you know? Also, Chris was like our like live producer, you know? Like
Right.
when we would play live, like he was such a psycho and I loved it because I am such a psycho. So it was like the perfect pair, except when we fought, we were real psychos.
You guys are kind of like fire and ice, right?
Yeah, I feel like when you joined the band was like the tail end of when me and Fasulo were just needed a break.
Yeah.
It was like it felt like a marriage that was just like
Oh, that's what I was going to say before. I think I was just saying, but like you guys, and remember your EP, and I remember like when I just moved here, and not to bag like New York musicians or anything, but like I had these like grandiose like expectations that, oh my God, like I remember when I moved here and I'm just like in my, oh my God, creepy East Village room that's being fucking sold off as an Airbnb.
You lived across the street from Lit Lounge, which I like practically lived in
Right.
that coke den.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I did
I
coke
had a
on
few
a
nights
toilet seat with a stranger there.
I've never done Coke, so
It's for the best.
I kind of prefer Pepsi, but
I just
No,
figured that was good.
but like I remember coming to New York and I was like, oh my, I was just like I had these like the bar was going to be so high. Looking on Craigslist, which is if anyone's not in America is the equivalent of like just the classifieds, right, online, and it's like Craigslist was just like you could go to community musicians and
Missed connections. I used to love just being home by myself and reading the missed
Really?
connections. Yeah.
I never understood though. Like, oh, girl with the blue scarf and like the yellow hat or something. You were on the,
I think I
the
secretly
2 train
like wished that I would find one that was me.
that you would see yourself. Yeah,
That
it'd be
someone
like,
put me
6
as a
foot,
misconnection.
6 foot
6-foot giant Jew.
Amazonian. Yeah,
Loudest voice I've ever heard in my life.
yeah,
We were meant to be together.
sneezing like blew the light bulbs out.
Like, can't hold a conversation, like a single topic of a conversation for more than 8 seconds.
No, but I remember like I had these big ideas, and then when I met up with people,
Oh, God,
I was
know.
just like.
I know some of the people you met up
Yeah,
with, too.
and I was just like listen to the music, and I was honestly, and look, I'm not saying I'm the greatest musician in the world, but I can tell if something is good or not. You know, or not good
You're
or not.
such a psycho that you make sure the job is done right when it comes to bass, which
Oh.
was why I was like everyone the first time you came to practice.
Yeah,
And Chris was like, where have you been hiding this person? Because we had so many people that I feel like really wanted to like, this
that
is
auditioned right for the bass.
that
player.
auditioned. Yeah, we the whole time, all through Wise Girl, we never had a steady bass player. We had one girl for a couple years, but she just wasn't that good. And I think it was more about like the showmanship.
Yeah.
Ooh, look at me, love the attention. But then it's funny because you used to be able to like play shows, and some venues would like record you.
Yeah.
You could like pay a little
and they
extra.
put on CD or something.
And I remember hearing some of the CDs, or even like people recording us with video on their phones and being like, what the fuck is this person playing? And once
Yeah.
again, me being a psycho with like, listen, I'm not saying I'm the most advanced like musician in the world, but if there's an off note, if someone's going to hear it, it's going to be me and Chris. So we were, for so long we were looking for a bass player, which is how me
Yeah.
and you,
Right.
even though me and you met on OkCupid, you literally just wrote about moving to New York, starting playing bass. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I looked at your picture. You're wearing like a leather jacket, shaggy hair. I'm like, he'll fit right in. And I told you, come out to our show at Bowery Electric.
Yeah.
And
that was my first time meeting you in person.
Yeah.
At Barry Electric, which is it's only a couple of blocks from where CBGBs used to be.
yeah.
On Bowery, and I was so blown away from you guys, and I just remember seeing you, and I was like, I have to be in this band, and I forget how much time progressed from there, but when you guys gave me the songs, like you said, when you were like, okay, we'll look for a
Oh, that
bass
was
player.
like 3 years later.
So this is 3 years later, and now you're like, okay, these are the songs. we want you to learn. And I think you'd even sent me the stems or whatever that just had the bass, or like the no
Or
vocals,
the instrumental, yeah.
yeah, and so I could hear the bass, because I feel like in the final one it was a little harder to hear. And of course, I'm like, first I'm like, oh, fuck, I can do this. Like, I can learn these songs. And then I'm like listening to them, and I'm like, who the fuck is playing these? Because
Of course it was a guitarist.
of course it's for fucking for Sulo, because they're so intricate.
Yeah.
First verse, second verse is like totally, like I'm just like, look, if I'm learning songs, please let the first and second verse at least be the same, and it's like different. You know what I mean? These progressions and like these bridges and stuff, like walking bass lines. Like, it took me so long, and I just learned them by ear, and I am not. You know what I mean? Like, you know me. Like, I'm not... Yeah, I feel like... Look, if I apply myself and I learn something and I kind of get it down, like, I will be like... I will lock it down. Like, I will go crazy, But I am not... You know what I mean? I'm just not that kind of... The musical guy. Like,
technical.
Yeah, I'm more about just, like, let me know what I'm supposed to do and I will, like, execute it,
Yeah.
But with Chris's bass lines was so good and so...
Oh my god, we couldn't find anyone who could replicate them.
Because they're
They
like,
were so
technically
crazy.
they were so difficult. I must have spent weeks, and I remember going back to my apartment and just like, I have this funny memory because it was around Halloween, and like I think I like carved a pumpkin or something, and I had a pumpkin, and I put like a light in it, a candle, and I was just practicing like in my apartment, and just trying to get it right, trying to get every note, and like it was just like, yeah, sorry, I'm taking over now, but like I feel like it was just so it was so good. The reason is that I loved the music, and like I'd seen so many other bands and so many other bass player wanted stuff, that when I was like, this is what I got to do. So I was like, I got to like put the work in, and so I was so nervous. And then when you were like, and in my head, I built it up like I was going to be going to band practice, and I was gonna blow everybody away, and everyone's going to go, oh my God.
I lost the rights to invite anyone to a full...
But remember to talk into it.
Oh, sorry. Oh God, I can't. My leg is like falling asleep. I lost the rights from Chris to bring anyone into band practice without me auditioning them first by myself, because Chris lives in Long Island. He would drive an hour each way for rehearsal.
Yeah.
And some of these people, they would send like samples and sound great of whatever, and then get there and we're just like, what are you doing?
Oh.
Or there was some girl like, in on the album and EP, whatever, majority of the songs, they're all played with a pick. And the pick gives it kind of that like power.
Yeah. I love it. I love the pick.
And we had one girl who was just like, I don't play with a pick. And I'm like, we love your style, but these like songs, maybe down the line there will be stuff without a pick, but these songs were like literally meant to be played with a pick to have that power. And then it was a whole thing. This girl was like, your producer, she flipped out on Chris because he was the one who initially said it, because he was the producer, and he played the songs and wrote the bass lines.
Yeah.
And she was like, he's mansplaining me all this stuff. And I'm like, I had to talk to the girl, and I'm like, I've been working with Chris for years. He wrote these lines. Like, if he says they need to be played with a pick, they need to be played with a pick. Like, if you don't want to, she's like, I don't want to compromise. It just, everyone.
I don't want to compromise my artistic
everyone had an
interpretation.
issue. We found another, oh my God, guys. What the fuck is wrong with guys?
Wait, what did they do?
I mean, you definitely have heard this story, but there was another guy that we had met, and he came out to a show to hear us. He was a bass player. His music sounded great. He had been in like, power pop bands. And like a week before he was supposed to come into audition, he came and met the band. Everyone thought he was cool, chatted with everyone. We played a show, and he came and, chatted with everyone. Maybe a week or days before he's supposed to come into audition, he sends me a message at 3 a.m. like, what did he say? Something about my ass. You have the nicest ass I've ever seen. Like, I just want to like, I don't know what, but I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, and that was another hard thing, like being a female and musician, like being taken seriously. Oh my God, I remember meeting guys out and they're like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "I'm a musician." And I remember you saw us play at the Knitting Factory.
Which blew me away.
And this one guy, I had met him a few nights before. I went out with one of my friends and I was smoking a cigarette outside. And he's like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, "I'm a musician." He didn't believe me. And he was like, "Oh, like everyone else." And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "So, like, what do you, like, play in, like, in your living room, or you play acoustic guitar?" And I'm like,
What?
"No." I'm like, "Yeah, and electric. I play all guitars. I've played 12-string guitars. Like, like
Yeah.
I've been playing guitar since I'm 13 years old." So, and this guy ended up coming to that show, and I remember I grabbed your arm and I was like, "Get me away. This person won't leave me alone." And he was mind blown. He saw our band play and he's like, "Oh my God, you guys are a real band." And then I remember at that show, we opened up for the Dolly Rods.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. And it was really cool because after there was like a line of people lined up to get like autographs,
I love it. He must have been really put in his place.
this guy and there were so many people like that. I felt like and this was like a total bro dude, like was just trying to get in my pants. But I was like, "Oh, come see our band play."
You're like,
Fuck, you want to get in my pants? Come see my band
Yeah.
play. Pay the cover
Fucking- I'll
charge.
fucking blow
We
you
get a
away.
percentage of that.
Yeah.
Just come. Yeah. Oh, what? You think we're going to hook up? Come see my band
Yeah,
play.
yeah.
And then there would be all these different dudes.
and then take a number.
Exactly. There would be all these guys there that thought they were going to get with the lead singer. And at the end, it was just like, "Okay, bye."
Yeah.
Like I think that night I ended up leaving
Yeah,
with
yeah.
you,
I felt like I was turning around and waving.
Yeah.
So long,
a
suckers.
couple other guys had come out to that show, and I remember just like kind of sticking to you. We weren't even like together,
No, it
but
was
you
just
were.
like, yeah.
I felt safe with you. I feel like everyone else was so aggressive. Like, oh my God. Like,
You needed somebody from New Zealand,
I
just
did.
to, like-
I needed someone not from America. But so yeah, I feel like, we had so many horrible,
auditions and
situation
stuff.
auditions. We auditioned one girl who was great. We wanted her in the band. She was a lesbian, and she was so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Lesbian, bring it on. Love it. We love it.
It's awesome.
Gay, lesbian, fucking
Yeah.
anything. I don't care. Like I feel like
I feel
Who
like
cares?
we're just looking for musicians.
exactly.
It's
Like yes, welcome. Someone a little like different. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please join us. Unfortunately, I think at that rehearsal, our drummer at the time, Harry, he was so sweet. He was only like 19 or 20 at the time. And the bass player's girlfriend was picking her up.
Yeah.
And they lived right by where Harry lived. And Harry had to take the train back to Brooklyn, like deep in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And he had asked them for a ride. And the girl was like, "Oh, I have to ask my girlfriend." And they said no. And then like she didn't end up joining the band. I don't know if she didn't feel comfortable around men or what, but like being in a band with men as well,
Yeah.
which sucks because
maybe she's had a bad experience.
well, that's clearly like not clearly,
Experiences,
but yeah. I mean, it sucks that anyone's had an experience
Yeah.
like that. I mean, so
the guys are the worst as
Guys
well.
are
So
the
it's
worst.
like,
I mean, I've had and not being I'm not trying to put myself in a like saying but being a woman in the music, doing music sucks. There were times where it's like I don't were we together when I had that meeting with those guys for the production deal? No, I think that was before. Yeah, I had a meeting with these guys and I thought they were songwriters. These three like middle-aged men. I was like 25 and we were all in a room. I was playing them my music, and I wanted to be involved in the writing, and I got offered a production deal. And
Yeah.
in the contract, I had no say in what I wore. I wouldn't write one thing. And mind you, the whole point of like the meeting in my mind was to co-write with these guys. And I
what
thought
does clothes have to do with anything?
because I was just going to be part of the machine and just pushed out as another Avril Lavigne
Yeah.
or God knows what, when I was an actual writer and had
Yeah.
placements, and actually like knew what I was doing, And so I guess I remember bringing that contract to my lawyer. And I remember at the time, like, I had my own style, my way of dressing. And I'm like, no. And I remember telling them, I'm like, I am not willing to negotiate on, like, I'm not going to wear what you say I should wear. If I don't feel comfortable, I'm not going to do that. And it was just like, also said I wanted to be included in the, like, songwriting process, like, whatever. Nope. So I didn't end up doing that. And I had another, when I was 18, also had a production deal offer. And they were even like, you won't be playing guitar in the recordings. You'll only be playing guitar live. And the guitarist that we have will play on the recordings and he'll teach you what to play. And I'm just like,
What?
no,
Yeah.
what? What was the point of all the work I've done all these years, staying up till 2 a.m., going to high school on like 2 hours of sleep or
just
3 hours of sleep?
Become some kind of sock puppet or something.
Yeah, so I just, and look, hey, some people have taken those deals and blown up and then done their own thing and gone their own way, but I was not willing to compromise, and maybe that was stupid on my end, who knows, but no, it wasn't.
I feel like you've always just held on to your integrity and just followed your instinct, and like, I kind of love that about you. Like,
look where that got me.
Look,
music-wise.
No, but I mean, I feel like you translated a lot of those skills, and I was thinking even earlier when you're talking about being the band leader and getting people together, it's so similar to what you're doing now. Yeah. Obviously not with music, but like with a team of makeup artists. You're at a wedding, and it's just, it sounds like a gig. Coordinating everything. We got to be prepared. I mean, we got to have practiced. We got to know what we all have to know. Jobs, and you're kind of like, you're like the apex, like,
for so many years, I was the manager, the agent, the everything, and then fronting the band, the songwriter. So I'm so used to carrying all the hats, that.
So in a way, that kind of prepared. I mean, obviously, you wanted the music career to be like,
of course,
the primary success, but like, it's kind of.
It's interesting how it has kind of, and also just like for us, and being a local band in New York City, you build relationships with bookers at venues, and it was so funny because I feel like most people probably didn't give a shit, but like every time we booked a show, I was so stressed, and I was like, we can't book more than one show a month because we need people to come out, or that's going to ruin our reputation for the booking agents. Yeah. So like, I was such a psycho about that like we got some really cool spots at like Mercury Lounge and, Knitting Factory, other venues that we probably, wouldn't have had the opportunity had we been playing like every other night. And, also with all of that, you learn like, if you play too much, not everyone's going to come out all the time.
That always used to happen for us. This, Goodnight Nurse, like, we would get, like... Yeah, it was that thing where, like... And it makes sense, because, like, people... And it was always the thing. The first show, everybody wants to go to the first show. This is our first show. Every man, woman, and their dog and cat turns up, and it's just like, oh my god,
that's how Wise Girls.
It's always going to be like this. It's always going to be like this. And then you do
the place was like literally like they couldn't fit. Our first show was at Fat Baby.
Oh.
And they literally like they would do the shows downstairs, and so many people came that there wasn't enough space in the place, and the door person just ended up eventually walking away.
Just gave
up. And also the sound guy was horrible. The mic was feeding back. I'm like cursing at the guy. I'm like, what's going on? Yeah. Like during the show, because there were so many people there, but everyone had such a blast and it was so fun. But yes, I feel like once you have a show like that, you want it to keep being like that,
And then you do realize that it's the less often you play, the more people you're going to get. Just because it's like, oh, we're going to play, now we're playing in a week and a half. And people are like, well, I kind of didn't we just do that? Like, it's kind of that balance of like, okay, not waiting too long that people forget who you are.
Yeah.
And not playing too soon so that people are a bit like, well, I'm not really inclined to go because I feel like I just saw you. Like,
exactly.
It's like,
there were all these things, and it's like, I feel like when it came to music, you learn from your mistakes, just like kind of any other venture, and it was great. And Wise Girl just kept growing, and we were getting a lot of attention, and
I passed the audition.
You passed the audition
in your bedroom, and then
in my bedroom. Then
I made it to stage 2, which was the studio rehearsal, and I remember being nervous, really nervous for that.
Oh my God, you blew that out of the
But
water.
it's funny because I knew I had it down. I was like, I have gone over these songs so many times, which is so funny because then it's like someone would just see you play and be like, oh my God, this guy's like great. And it's just like, like people don't see like
Yeah.
how much I had to practice to get to that point. Like it was actually real. I really enjoyed it. It was a real challenge. And I felt like I almost learned a lot from learning Chris's bass lines and kind of just picking up on certain patterns or like themes and being like, oh, you can do this. Like, oh, I can just like, what if I keep bouncing along the fifth and the octave? You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, that sounds really cool. Like, you can kind of do that anywhere. Like,
Yeah, instead of just playing like the
the
root notes.
which I don't mind. I don't know. I feel like I love, root notes, whatever. Tricky stuff is fun. But, I was so grateful to get in that you guys accepted me into the band. And I still remember the coolest thing was we went to, I think we were at Pianos in the Lower East Side, and that was, I think that might have been after rehearsal, and then you introduced me to someone. You're like, oh, hey, do you know, this is Paul, he's our new bass player. And I literally felt like electricity just went through my whole body. I was just like, I'm the new bass player, I'm the bass player, like, and I'm in like New York.
Yeah,
and
that
we're
was
just, like,
when Izzy
hanging.
and Brad worked
Yeah.
for our good friend worked for
Guitar
Guitar
World.
World. That was so fun. Oh my God, we did so much fun stuff after that with their band.
And then we played
playing Union Square.
We did Green, what was it? Not Green Day. No, what was it called?
Earth Day.
Earth Day.
That was out even farther
And
after
that was
that.
like,
But yeah.
and that crowd was like,
It was wild.
crazy.
I mean, we played with Alex Skolnick from
Was it Trans-Siberian Orchestra or something?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. And then I called him Jake
You
Skolnick.
call him Jake Skolnick on stage. And then
This is the problem.
and then you followed through. It was funny. It was almost like
And then I dedicated the song.
you kind of felt like because you got his name wrong. What was his? I forgot. I didn't know.
His name was Alex Skolnick, and the whole time I was like, "Don't say Jake, don't say Jake."
Like
so we
Bridget
get
Jones.
up there, yeah, exactly. Of course, and then you have ADHD,
And you're like,
and it's just
we
like,
want to thank, and you're like, say Alex, Jake Skolnick,
yep.
and
Oh
then
my God, it was so embarrassing. I was so mortified.
No, but the thing is with you on stage is I think you probably would beat yourself up, but like you had such a funny, like you could get away with so much. Like I felt like you kind of said that, and then you were like, oh wait, sorry, I went to, and I love it. You're addressing like Union Square at this point, and you're like,
there were so many people,
and you were like, oh, I went to school with a guy named Jake Skolnick, and you're like, I get those names, Alex Skolnick, that's right. And then what did you say? You're like, oh, but let's dedicate it to Jake Skolnick.
I said I'm gonna dedicate the song to my friend Jake Skolnick.
It was just so random, but I thought it was so funny that you were mortified.
I was dying on the
Yeah,
inside. Do you
yeah.
remember how anxious I was for that show? There were hundreds and hundreds of
It
people
was
there.
so bright.
I remember we all were in a bar before, and you guys were drinking,
Oh.
and I was like, I can't drink. I was like,
I ran and
fucking-
did a couple of shots.
I know you guys were taking Harry, and Tim. That was when Chris was.
Yeah.
Me and Chris had a falling out, and I was like,
But
I
then
want to
we
work with
played
other
Chris.
producers.
Then we played with Chris for the second Union Square, which was fucking
Eventually,
awesome.
Chris came back, but I feel like that was also really awesome for me, though. Like I missed Chris, and it was hard, like not talking for like a year or two. But
Sometimes it's like relationships, just having that distance or that kind of like period of time of like not being in communication when you come back. It's like
it also
kind of-
reassured me that I could do so much on my own. Like I feel like I always really depended on Chris for a lot of things, and like didn't fully trust myself. And then when I recorded the acoustic EP, I just hit the thing, which I think probably did the best out of anything I ever put out.
Yeah.
Because that was like my, obviously growing in songwriting, like being even more vulnerable, like having like a love song on there,
Yeah.
like, all these things that like, anti-love songs. All my songs are about like relationships gone
Yeah.
bad. You're a fucking dick. Fuck you. Like, and then just really opening up, like vulnerability wise and kind of simplifying things as well, which is
Yeah.
like, that's when it comes to like, most really popular music is like, more on the simple side because
Yeah.
it's easier for normal people who are not musicians
Right.
to understand,
And
which I had
appreciate.
such a hard time with
Yeah.
once I started getting into like, key changes and all, and I loved it and it sounded so cool. But then it's like, to an extent, like not everyone understands that.
Yeah.
So some of my like the most simple songs did the best, and that acoustic EP got me meetings with big publishers and got me signed to a record label, and then to ultimately get dropped by that label before even doing anything. So
leading you to makeup.
well, that was it. I feel like that was the end. There were so many almost, we had so many. Remember we got that private audition for America's Got Talent or something. Was it America's Got Talent?
America's Got Talent. And and it was like, I remember it was in the middle of like a like we weren't even
it
supposed to make it.
In the middle of a snowstorm. And that was when I was debating leaving music, and then I got that random email, and that would happen all the time. I'd be like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I worked so hard with no payoff. And we'd play a college show, make a couple $1,000s. I'd pay you guys out. I'd rent the van. I'd rent everything, pay you guys out, and then whatever was left just like went into my savings, because I was just like, it was just money was so like sparse. You had a full-time job, so just like, and then signing with the record label, getting agreeing to a $10,000 advance that I was going to be able to live off of that while we record all of that. And then
that was tough. I remember how tough that was for you.
Was
and
horrible.
It went so sideways. And like, I remember at the time thinking it was so unfair, and, it was nothing to do with anything you did. It was just, you were dealing with a record label I don't even remember where they were, but like
shady.
I just feel like, in a way now, like, it's almost a pity that, because, now I feel like it's like, do you even need a record label? You can like record, you can get it on like
but
Spotify
you could
and do
have before, and we're on Spotify. But getting that exposure, getting on tours with like similar bands with similar genres. I mean, you could also say like a booking agency, whatever. But just like getting privately like invited to meet with the CEO of a huge music publishing company, and having that CEO and the A&R person sit me down in a room, just me, talking about my songs that I fucking wrote. I played everything. I produced. I had engineers that did stuff, but that was, who were just like, this is so, you are so talented. And having them say all that, and then they're like, we want to sign with you. We want you to sign to our publishing company. And when you sign with a publishing company as well, you get an advance to live off of. And there's all these like, that's all I wanted so I could really focus on music. And their COO happened to be out of town during that meeting. And they're like, we want to move forward, blah, blah. COO comes back and it's just like, you know what? We really just don't get enough requests for this kind of music. And just being talked up. The CEO of the publishing company literally asked me to autograph a CD for him, because he was like, I'm literally going to keep this in my office. He's like, you're going to be somebody. Like, you are amazing. And then having all of that just kind of taken, I was done. It wasn't fun anymore. It was like just having your heart broken and stomped on like multiple times. It's one thing if you never get those. Yeah. And then having these people, and then it's like, it was just so nuts, we had, so I used to be part of this, I don't remember what it was, but they had these like songwriting sessions where you would like pitch your songs in a group setting to A&R people. And like, I had a pop song I wrote called Let's Talk About Boys, and Jessie J, her A&R person, fucking runs up to me after, I want that song for her. Here's my number. This is my info. Please send it to me. Let's do this. Blah, blah, blah. I want to pitch it to her. I think this is the perfect song for her. Nothing ever happened. Can I tell you how many times that's happened to me? It's just like, it's
just like heartbreaking.
Well, but that's where like, it's funny because now running a successful business, a successful small business here in New York City, the hair and makeup event team is great and amazing, but I am such a psycho and I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop, because I think I have like some PTSD from the music industry where I did everything right. But it just didn't happen. Whereas here, I'm once again, everything right. Bend over backwards, customer service. I'm OCD. I'm going to make sure you are not just happy, but ecstatic with the way you look. And I guess you have a little more control over it in this world, rather than the music industry, because there's so many other people, like, there's just so many levels of people calling the shots that...
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? It's almost like you're on a boat. You know when you're on a boat and it's so shaky and moving around and you get the sea legs and everything. And then...
Damn. How long have we been chatting on here?
Yeah, we'll wrap it up.
We'll wrap it up. Well, did you get any good questions in?
Yeah. Wait, what was I saying? I just cut off. So my point was, so it's similar to like, I think about it similar to like when you're at sea and you're kind of bouncing around and you get your sea legs because you get used to it. I'm almost like that's like the music industry, like, and then you go on land again and there's still a part of you that's kind of, it takes you a while to get your like land legs back. I almost feel like maybe with makeup, yeah, because you had that kind of turmoil and kind of, uncertainty in music that like, yeah, I could see how that could cross to your next career, and just having that same thought of, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I feel like I'm on land. Things seem like they're going pretty good, but I thought that last time, and look what happened. So
yeah.
There's just a bit of maybe like self-preservation where you're just like, you know what? I'm excited. I think things are going great, but I'm going to leave, a little bit of, I'm not going to completely invest myself 100% just in case, but it sounds, I
think it's more like I'm not going to completely invest myself emotionally because, it's
gotcha.
like, and I definitely like freak out over little things. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. I fucked up. Like, and it's just no. And, part of running any sort of business is learning from mistakes and all that. And also just like, I feel like when I first moved to New York City and like met some of my favorite musicians, like I loved the band The Moldy Peaches. And I remember becoming friends with one of the guitarists in the band, Toby, who was so talented. I was just like, oh my God. And I would see him play a lot. He played all around the city. We'd play at Sidewalk Cafe, Pete's Candy Store, like, all these cool little venues. And I remember asking him, like, I don't remember how it came up, but he was like, oh, yeah, I just came from work. And I'm like, wait, you have a job? And realizing how fucking, like, just what an amateur I was to think that like you could do music and make a living and make a good living doing that. And I feel like also, you learn that more and more and how much money you're spending and all that. Even, a publicist, that's a monthly, cost money monthly. And just like,
gosh,
it's just so, it's all, the music business, I feel like is just like, there's so much, it's just money, you need money. I mean, not everyone, but if you really want to, you probably could really just, if you have the money to market yourself and all of that. And that's where record labels come in, having the budgets and, being able to put you on tours with more well-known artists. But I feel like I did the best with what I had in the sense of like looking up artists who were coming to New York and having relationships with the bookers. And it's like, oh, this artist is playing. Can we open for them?
Yeah.
I saw they're playing. Do they have an opener yet? Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Like that kind of stuff,
I feel like that's one thing with you that I've noticed is that you're so good at like hustling.
Yeah.
And I'm, I'm not sure. I've definitely noticed in America that's like everybody, but especially you.
It's not America. I think it's New York.
It's New York. And like you're so good at hustling. And like you just said, hey, I heard this band's coming in. Like we can, we're ready if you need an opener or whatever. Or like, and just like, it's really just like seeing these opportunities and then acting on them, as awkward as it probably is, like
not awkward at all.
Well,
because these are people. Well, for me, no.
For me to do it, it would be weird.
Well, it was like the beautiful thing was we were playing these venues, so I already had relationships with the bookers, and because I was such a psycho about strategically booking the shows, or
you already had like a relationship with them, like.
Well, yeah, and we already had a good reputation, like they were gonna bring people out,
right?
So it was like kind of almost. Not easy, because sometimes people would be touring with their openers. So then it's like, no, we don't.
We already have somebody,
but there were times that it worked, and like it was so cool. Like it would really cool instances. And, I remember reaching out when I was friends with the Muffs and asking them, like, hey, can we open for you in New York? But they're like, Booker, I guess, who was here, kind of like, I don't know if he didn't like our band or just like liked the band he booked already. So they went through a person who would like fly them out and then book them at, like, they played Maxwell's in Hoboken a lot, which I think is closed again. They would play.
That wasn't in relation to Max's Kansas City, was it? No.
There was also they would play. What was the place we saw them in Brooklyn? I saw them play at Pianos a zillion years ago. They played.
Can't I remember?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, but so it was so funny though, because I remember there were a couple of years where like my band played the same day as them, so I'd missed their show, and like I remember I was friends with them, and I tried to like email Roy, and I was like, hey, can we open for you guys for this show? And I guess they'd asked the booker, and the booker's like, nah. And they just like, I guess they felt bad and felt weird and didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, we thought you were mad at us. And I'm like, why would I be mad at you? Are you kidding? It's not your choice. Like,
it's so good that you put, like you really, I feel like it's like everything. You just have to, you put yourself out there, and look, sometimes, the stars align, and then sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's not personal. It's like, okay, I get it. It's like you have, and I feel like, but I just hope that, I think you're just such a talented musician. I know that you focused on the music.
You have to say that. You're married to me.
I know. Okay. I'm trying to be objective or subjective, whichever. I forget the word. But you are so talented. Even to this day, I feel like I love when you pick up a guitar.
He's just saying that because he has to.
No, I'm honestly not. I would be honest, and I'm just like,
you would say you're not talented.
You helped me so much with my EP that I did, Chris. I'll save that for another time. But like, you were so good with songwriting with me. Like, I had ideas, and like, I felt like you're just so talented. And like, I'm not a songwriter, but like, I'd come up with some stuff, and I'm like, I think this is all right. Like, and then you were so nice about it, because I think you probably saw the initial stuff and were like, gee, this needs a lot of work. But like, you were so good. You really guided me through it, and were like, okay, but have you thought about doing this, or have you done this, and what if we did this, and like, what are the lyrics? And you would listen to the lyrics, and you're like, I like it, but I think we could do better. Like, and you would be like, I think this, like, you can do better than this. And like, it never came across as like condescending, or like, it was always, I found it always so kind of exciting just to be like, just learning from someone that knows what they're doing. It's like anything in life. If you're not good at something and you're with someone that knows, like, I just want to learn. Just, you can say whatever you want to me. Like, I really don't, I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not going to take it personally, because I want to get better at this. And I just felt like you made me better at songwriting and just looking at lyrics and melodies and, all the stuff that I'm generally not, look, I'll be the first to admit, that's not my strong suit, singing. But you kind of made it fun, and you really, you helped me, you know what I mean? You made these song ideas kind of turn into real songs. And Fasulo, of course, because he was the engineer, producer, everything. So I just wanted you to know how much of, you really made an impact on my life, really, because that was such a milestone for me. Look, nobody listened to it, but I loved it. I listen to it all the time. It sounds so weird, but I get so excited. I'm like, I did that. I had a part of this. I know what...
It's awesome.
I know what you say when you listen to your stuff, like, and you just get that feeling that I made this. You know what I mean? Like, this, like, it's just saying...
It's like your baby,
This meant something. This started as an idea, and then it kind of grew, and then it got kind of molded and sculpted, and then now it exists in the world. Honestly, I feel like my perspective is that... And look, because the thing is, I'm not in it for the money. I didn't think,
And I am.
But that's the thing, and you were. But like, so to me, it didn't matter if it did good, but it was just so cool to have something and say, you know what? This is something I did, and I had my input on it, and I was able to say, this is what I think, and people listened.
Yeah.
That's such a special experience, because generally in a band, if you're a bass player or drummer or whatever, like guitarist, it's hard to crack into the songwriting and everything if there is a dedicated person doing it. So just to have that experience alone was amazing. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for being the very first and hopefully not the last, but the very first guest on Rock and Roll Weirdos. And
thank you for having me, weirdo.
And it was so fun. And this is just kind of like it just happened. And
I feel like this sounds like a typical night for us, just like talking about the past.
Yeah,
you
right?
know.
There's just
Really quick. Remember, we had this idea where we were going to get high and then do a podcast.
Yeah. And we did.
Yeah,
and
it
was
didn't
really
go
bad.
too well.
We
Yeah.
thought it was so funny at the time.
I know.
And then we listened to it the next day and we were like, this is it. Like this is going to be published and everything. And we listened and we were like, yee. You know, like it was a little bit of it. But look, it's all a bit of a gamble. But hey, this is what they always say in the end of podcasts. Do you have anything you want to plug? Do you want to plug Abby Lauren Makeup? Anything you're kind of working on, or do you want people to listen to Wise Girl? You know, give them the link or what to look for on Spotify, anything like that.
I mean, sure, you can check out Wise Girl, and if there are any cool bands that I don't know, I'd love to like at some point, you know, take a little try on producing. If I found the right person, I would love. I think that would be such fun.
You would be a great
or
producer.
like co-producing with Fasula or something.
Yeah.
I feel like I love that. If I heard some stuff that had some like really cool potential, I feel like that would be a lot of fun. And just you know, I'm a big fan of like kind of, I feel like co-writing and all that.
Yeah.
I did that for a while too, just like, you know, with pop artists and stuff, and that I feel like collaborating, you know.
That's great.
But it has to be the right fit.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, then it's no good.
So we need to make that happen somehow. So you said Wise Girl. What? Yeah, just go on Spotify, search. It's Wise Girl. 2 words or 1 word?
Two girls.
2 girls.
2 words. 2 girls, 1 cup.
Right.
I actually have never seen that.
Neither have I, and I don't want to.
I think you're the person who told me don't ever see that.
Someone kind of started to just say something to me about it, and I was like, "Stop!" I'm like one of these people where if
you're
you
too
say,
visual.
Yeah, if somebody like
Gets stuck
it'll
in
get
your
stuck
brain.
in my head. I'm like, I don't want whatever that is. I don't want it stuck in my head. So
See, you're too visual. I'm too curious.
Yeah,
I'm
you
like,
would push the
what?
envelope and what? Yeah. So
And then I'd be traumatized.
Okay. So Wise Girl,
Wise Girl,
on
wisegirlmusic.com.
is that still up? Does that Wise Girl Music still there?
I think I actually canceled it
If
because
you
they
get
kept charging me.
if you get a GoDaddy 404 error not found, just go
check
to,
out Wise Girl on Spotify.
and listen to the album. What was the album? The album was
You'll Just Have to Wait.
You'll Just Have to Wait is so good. I will say my 2 favorites just off the top of my head. I'm a Freak. I love that. And Little White Lies. Oh my god. And the bass sound, like this is for Chris Fasulo doing the bass. It sounds so good.
Oh, and then the other one. What was the acoustic EP? Was it just called the acoustic EP?
No, it was one of the songs. It was just called one of the songs, I think.
Sing Me to Sleep.
I think it's called Sing Me to Sleep.
Wise Girl.
Abby has the acoustic Sing Me to Sleep EP, which is awesome.
That I did. Yeah.
And let's hope that there's more music on the horizon.
Yeah, I feel like me and Fasulu have we have some unfinished stuff that we're like, oh, we'll get to it, we'll get to it. So someone just come and offer us money and that will motivate us.
Right? And if we can get Fasula on this, then
I think we can. Let's do it before school starts.
Make an appearance, or we can co-host that one. And I think that'd be really interesting.
Can you do that like while he's home?
I think there's a way they can dial in or whatever, whatever they do these days.
Yeah, we're going to try and work that out.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. The very first episode of Rock and Roll Weirdos. Thank you, Abby Weitz, for being our very
rock and
first
roll
guest.
weirdos. Let's go. Rock and roll weirdos. Let's go.
Maybe you just wrote the theme song.
Well, that's a Ramones song.
Oh yeah, without the
Rock and
Ramones
Roll
copyright
Radio.
infringement. We'll work on it. Thank you, everybody.
We're on it.